The room is dark, with only a thin strip of light sliding across the old wooden floor. A shadow slowly creeps along the wall, too long to belong to an adult, but too intricate for a child. The camera spins around. The viewer cannot immediately tell where the protagonist is, but the feeling of dread grows with every breath. Heavy, uneven breaths and muffled sobs are heard off-screen, then a whisper. Have you ever thought of mirrors as just ordinary things? Linda, the main character, sits in the corner holding a small piece of cloth. Her enormous brown eyes glisten with tears, not hysteria or fear, but a gripping terror that holds every cell in place. An old mirror stands against the wall, long neglected, its silvering cloudy but glimmering faintly, as if something inside is trying to get out. Linda looks straight at the viewer, or at herself, but suddenly her expression shifts. Her gaze fills with anxiety, her lower lip trembles slightly. Everything is shown in close-up. Breath quickens, fingers clutch the fabric tightly. That night, I understood for the first time that during Hungry Ghost Month, you should never look into a mirror. Memories blur with the oppressive atmosphere. The viewer feels the spatial confinement. The walls close in, the air thickens, and the mirror's shadow grows as if trying to touch the ceiling. Hidden symbols. Linda slowly approaches the mirror. A faint rustling sounds, as if something is moving inside the frame. Suddenly, noises come from behind the wall. Drops fall onto the floor too loudly. A stool creaks as if an invisible hand just brushed by. The girl touches the mirror with her palm and feels a coldness, not ordinary but icy, piercing through her skin. I never thought simple glass could be a door. The outline on the wall. Suddenly, a silhouette appears on the mirror, unclear but definitely not her own. It moves its lips as if trying to say something, but no sound comes out. Linda looks closely into her eyes and notices her face changing. Her reflection becomes someone else, an older girl with long dark hair, and behind her, another child with hollow eyes and a shadow for a face. She steps back in horror, but the mirror twists her gaze back. She tries to close her eyes, but the darkness inside grows thicker. Warnings and anxiety. The scene changes into memories. Her mother's voice echoes as if through water. Don't look out the window at night when the moon is full. Don't touch the mirror if you feel breath on your neck. Linda remembers how her mother once snatched a stranger's cloth from her in front of the mirror and whispered, "In this month, it's better to be invisible to those who live in the glass." First mystification. The air tightens around Linda. A smoky patch appears on the wall, and in the mirror, the reflection moves independently from her. The girl wants to scream, but her voice vanishes. Red spots appear on her hands, as if someone is trying to reach her from the other side of the glass. Remember, sometimes a shadow walks ahead of you. Chapter climax. Linda's gaze is fixed at the center of the mirror. She sees space behind the glass ripple like layered dough. A hand, dark and bony, shows through, and someone whispers right into her ear. If you had said a single word, I would no longer be among the living. The camera pulls away. All the horror and cold remain behind the glass. The viewer understands the story is far from over. Until the reflection lets go, nothing ends. At first, this day was like any other summer day. Warm, sticky breath of the Asian city, thick air carrying the scent of blooming trees and withered yellow leaves. By noon, the sky was covered with a slow, dull haze. The mist came quickly, lurking low between houses, covering the street like a woolen blanket. It muffled sounds, made everything quieter, making Linda glance over her shoulder again and again, wondering if someone was behind her. She stood by the window in her room, watching the playground and rare passers-by. Sweat trickled down her face, and her heart beat fast with an underlying unease living under her ribs since morning. This mist was unlike any ordinary one. It seemed to crawl through cracks in windows and doors, pressing like an invisible weight on her shoulders. There was a door slam in the hallway. Her mother hurried into the room, pulling some bundles out of her bag. Behind her, little brother Danik dragged a plastic toy car along the floor slowly, almost without energy. Mom suddenly stopped by the large mirror in the hall, the familiar old wooden frame her father had brought from Lotus years ago. She rushed over and carefully covered it with an old cloth. "Mom, why?" Linda asked, confused. Mom gave a stern look, furrowed her eyebrows. "In Hungry Ghost Month, mirrors must not be left uncovered. Not only we look through them," she said quickly, no room for argument. "Danik, stop dragging the car, don't anger the spirits," she added over her shoulder. Linda shivered involuntarily. Every year, when this month arrived, her mother turned into a different person. Quieter, more cautious, sometimes prone to strange precautions. Right now, Mom forbade going outside, drew curtains thickly over windows, and even hid small personal mirrors. "Mom, come on, you don't really believe all this," Linda tried timidly. "Doesn't matter if I believe or not. Sometimes, disbelief is enough to get you into trouble." Mom dashed to the kitchen door. "Get ready, we're going to Grandma's." On the road, Linda couldn't shake the feeling that something had stayed behind the closed covered mirror, glued to it like a shadow. Danik buried his face into the tablet device allowed sometimes for the road. The cars around blurred, like in a strange dream. Mom kept glancing anxiously from the window to Linda, as if waiting for something unusual to happen. "Mom, does Grandma believe in spirits too?" whispered Linda as the bus entered a darker, denser district. When she was young, no. But later, she grew more cautious. Mom's voice lowered. "Hungry Ghost Month is no joke. The gates between worlds open, and we never know who can cross." A shadow flashed past the windows, which Linda at first thought was a trick of light, but on the muted glass beside it, she saw it again. A chill froze her heart. "It's just my imagination. Or steam inside the bus. Or not." In the village, the mist thickened even more, and the air turned icy cold like winter. They stepped from the bus, and Linda immediately felt dozens of unseen eyes upon her. She, Mom, and Danik walked along a gravel path coated in a sticky gray fog. Every step echoed. A breeze carried the smell of incense and lotus petals, something warm and familiar, but now it felt threatening in the gloom. Grandma greeted them on the porch. "Don't look sideways, walk straight, don't look back," she muttered like reciting a spell. "Everything is prepared, but don't touch anything without asking." Late at night, when the first wave of fear eased slightly, Linda looked out the window again. Grandma's courtyard was buried in dense smoke, through which anything could hide. Mom repeated, "Close the mirrors at night, my dear." Linda covered her small makeup mirrors and glanced once more into the dark outside. "I'll tell my friend how funny it is to be home in this fog. I'm sure no scary thing would come near me. Or maybe it would." Just beside her pillow came the first dream, broken by strange, restless visions. On the edge of sleep and waking, she saw vague silhouettes, not shadows, but invitations to step over the line and break the adult warnings. The whisper of wind, rustling debris outside, quiet dripping from old pipes merged into a long, drawn lullaby. It was scary yet warm. In this quiet house with covered mirrors, and below the dull veil of the first real Hungry Ghost Month, Linda could feel the thin line between worlds. Tomorrow something will happen that will change everything. The journey itself felt haunted. Linda's family left the mist-filled village bus station and walked carefully down twisting dirt roads. Every step made small stones crunch and sent echoes disappearing into the fog, which seemed to thicken with every breath. Even little Danik, usually loud, was silent. His toy car bumped gently along his side, trailing behind him like a lost companion. Ahead, the silhouette of the old family house appeared, crooked windows, reddish lanterns, and on the porch, Grandma already waiting, her posture tense. She motioned for them to hurry up. Linda noticed Grandma's hands trembling as she tied protective knots of red string on the gatepost. A tradition for this month, she knew. The very air over the porch felt charged with invisible static. Inside, the rooms were dim. Every mirror or reflective surface was covered with colored cloth, even the small glass panels on the cupboards. "These keep the wandering spirits confused," Grandma explained softly, her voice hoarse as if she had not spoken all day. Linda's mother thanked her with a nod, and the two adults began quietly discussing preparations and rituals for the coming days. Danik settled quickly onto a mat in the corner, careful not to bump any furniture. Left to herself, Linda wandered about the house, observing every detail. In one shadowed hallway, she spotted something unusual. A fine red silk dress, much too small for an adult, pinned to the inside of a closet door with an old bronze brooch. The garment seemed almost freshly ironed, its fabric glowing in the faint light. Grandma appeared behind her almost instantly, moving so silently Linda barely registered her presence. "That dress belonged to your aunt," Grandma said softly. "But we don't talk about her during this month." Linda turned the question over in her mind, but didn't ask aloud. There was an unspoken rule in the family. Some ghosts were better left undisturbed by memory. As the evening wore on, the mist pressed harder against the window glass, swirling like pale hands caressing the house's skin. The only visible light was the dim orange glow of lanterns strung across the porch outside. Inside, the soft rattling of charms and wind bells blended with the distant sound of chanting, prayers drifting from nearby houses, where families were also shielding themselves from whatever might slip through the gates that month. Linda's mother found her, took her gently by the hand. "Come sit with us. Don't wander at night, especially not this week." There was urgency in her voice. Together, the family ate a simple meal. Conversation was sparse. Everyone seemed lost in their own thoughts, watching the windows, especially when the wind scraped at the cloths covering them. Danik finally broke the silence, whispering, "I saw someone outside. A girl with long hair. She was looking at me through the fence." Everyone froze. Grandma gripped her wooden spoon tighter, and Linda's mother pursed her lips. "I didn't see anyone, honey," Linda said quietly, trying to comfort her brother, but knew even as she spoke that she believed him. After dinner, Linda asked her mother for permission to step out onto the porch, promising not to wander into the garden. The night air was especially cold, heavy with moisture and mysterious smells, crushed petals, smoke, and something sour lingering beneath. She wrapped herself in a thin blanket and stepped through the kitchen door, immediately feeling exposed. The dim lanterns barely illuminated the yard, and the thick mist hovered over the ground like spilled milk. Only her footsteps and the slow creak of a swing were audible. At first, Linda's nerves were soothed by the quiet. Then, out of the pale haze, a figure emerged. A girl, maybe a year older than Linda, stood by the ancient plum tree. She wore a brilliant red dress with a white flower pinned at the collar. Her face was turned away, but her posture was stiff, unnatural, as if she was trying hard not to tremble. Linda watched uncertainly. She tried calling, "Hello?" No answer. The girl stepped closer to the tree's trunk, placing a small pale hand against it. "Do you live here?" Linda whispered. This time, the girl slowly turned. Her face appeared, eyes large and shining, not with joy, but with a haunting sadness. When she spoke, her voice seemed to echo from somewhere much deeper, or farther away than the yard they both stood in. "You shouldn't be outside tonight." Linda felt a chill, but stood her ground. "Why?" "Because tonight, some things try to find themselves in reflection," the girl said softly. "If you see more than yourself in the mirror, don't look back. Even if something calls your name." The lantern above flickered. For a brief moment, Linda thought she saw another face behind the girl in red, a faint, distorted face like a smudge on glass. It blinked and then faded into the mist. A strong gust of wind swept across the porch, causing the lanterns to rattle violently. The girl in red stepped further away into the fog and was swallowed up instantly. Linda stood paralyzed, trying to process what she'd heard. Then a sudden cold touched her shoulder. She spun around, but no one was behind her. Returning inside, Linda found Grandma waiting with a cup of tea, hot, bitter, and fragrant. "Don't speak of what you see tonight until morning," Grandma warned. "Spirits travel with stories. Some only need your voice to become real." Linda nodded, her heart racing. As she prepared for sleep, she couldn't help peeking through the window once more. The mist was thicker, and for a split second, she saw the red dress again under the plum tree, as if it hovered like a warning. A soft voice seemed to echo in her mind, even after she lay down. "If you see more than yourself in the mirror, don't look back." At midnight, Linda awoke with a start. The house was quiet, but a strange sequence of sounds drew her attention. A faint scratching on the walls, a distant thump, and the rhythmic clink of wind bells. She tiptoed through the hallway, stopping in front of the covered mirror in the living room. Something made her want to look. Carefully, she lifted the cloth an inch, peering at her own reflection. For a moment, all was normal. But then, in the edge of the glass, she saw the red dress, swaying gently as if a slow breeze were moving it from inside. A shadowy hand seemed to reach up for hers. Linda dropped the cloth, heart pounding. In her rush, she didn't notice the small pale flower that slipped from beneath the cloth and landed at her feet. She returned to her room, clutching the flower tightly, whispering, "If you see more than yourself, don't look back. Even if something calls your name." She did not sleep soundly that night. And when morning came, the mist was still there, and nothing felt quite safe again. Dawn came heavy and blue, draping the house in uncertain gloom. Linda hardly felt rested. The previous night's whispers still echoed inside her skull like a song refusing to fade. She stretched, reached for her slippers, and felt a hard lump press into her palm. It was the small white flower from the night before, strangely cool and perfectly intact, as though it had never spent long hours on the cold floor. She moved to her window, pulled aside the curtain, and stared out. The mist held fast to the earth, swallowing fences and hiding the shape of the old plum tree. No birds sang, and the only movement was the slow swirl of fog spiraling in absent wind. Linda dressed quietly, and as she pulled her sweater over her head, she noticed the fabric feeling much heavier than normal. When she checked the neckline, she discovered a folded scrap of crimson cloth wedged into the stitching. Unfolding it, she saw a careful black character stitched onto it, Soul. Her heart thudded. The patch matched the color and texture of the red dress from the haunted closet. Had she accidentally plucked it off in last night's confusion, or had someone left it for her? Breakfast was silent. Grandma served everyone sweet buns and jasmine tea, but her eyes looked haunted, drifting to Linda more than once. Danik had found a new distraction, spinning tops made from old bottle caps. He was content, so long as everyone left him to his games. After the meal, Linda approached Grandma with the patch of cloth. She said nothing, only held it out with her trembling hands. Grandma gasped, not aloud, but with a sharp intake of breath that spoke volumes. She examined the patch, twisting it in her fingers, eyes flickering. "Some things, once touched, cling to you for longer than you'd wish," she murmured. "You mustn't let such tokens remain in your bed. Even gifts from spirits cost more than you know." She beckoned for Linda to follow her out to the garden. There, beneath the plum tree, Grandma showed her a small, blackened bowl already prepared with ashes. "Place the patch in here. We will burn it and say prayers before the noon bell." Linda obeyed. Grandma sprinkled a pinch of salt and dried mint over the cloth. "These break attachments. You must always finish by washing your hands and face. Do not let the spirit linger on your skin." As smoke curled from the bowl, Linda watched the red character dissolve and imagined the face of the girl from the mirror, eyes deep and yearning. She felt both sorrow and relief. But peace was short-lived. By afternoon, Linda found herself drawn once more to the edges of her world, the covered mirrors, the forbidden corners, the old wooden wardrobe. She understood, now, the rules were not just precautions but boundaries in a house pressed by supernatural currents. Danik, ever the explorer, began a game that involved crawling beneath beds and wardrobes, his giggles echoing down the hall. Linda scolded him, worried what rules he might unwittingly break. "Mama says you shouldn't go under dark places when the sky is thick with mist," she admonished. Danik shrugged. "Mama says lots of things. I didn't see anything scary, only dust bunnies." But Linda felt uneasy. She went to the bathroom, feeling the need to wash the lingering chill from her fingers. The sink's mirror was hidden behind a colored towel, and for a moment she considered lifting it, just to check her reflection, but thought better of it. As she washed, a shiver ran through her, water too cold, the scratch of porcelain too loud. Behind her, faint laughter echoed in the hallway. When Linda returned, Danik was gone. She searched the house, growing more anxious. In the wardrobe, only the red dress and wrapped brooch remained. Linda reached for the closet handle, and this time, the door would not open. The lock, rusty, stung her palm. She hurried to Grandma, panic heavy in her chest. "Danik's missing. He was crawling under the wardrobe, and now he's gone." Grandma's face flashed with terror. She grabbed Linda's hand and dashed down the hall, searching every room. Finally, in the rear bedroom, the coldest in the house, they found Danik, curled in a ball behind a trunk, shivering but safe. "What happened?" Linda whispered. Danik's teeth chattered. "I heard someone calling, like a kid's voice. It said my name and told me to come play. When I tried to answer, I felt really cold, and then I got scared." Grandma hugged him close. "You mustn't answer voices during Hungry Ghost Month. Some are not what they seem." Later, during lunch, Grandma shared quietly with Linda, away from Danik. "After your aunt disappeared, this house changed. Some say she wandered off, others say she was taken. But every Hungry Ghost Month, it feels like she comes back, her voice in the mirrors, her footsteps on the porch. That red dress was hers, and she cared for it more than anything. That's why we keep it hidden and protected." Linda nodded, pressing her hand to the warm mug of tea. In her heart, she wondered, was she being haunted by her aunt, or by something that wore her aunt's face? Her mother, having returned from errands, insisted everyone take part in cleansing rituals. Wash hands with salted water, burn sticks of cedar, chant prayers to ancestors. Linda did her part, wishing all the while that the mist would finally lift. But at sunset, the fog thickened. The spirits, Linda realized, were only getting stronger. That night, in bed, Linda held her blanket tight around her. From her pillow's edge, she could see the wardrobe door, a sliver of red, a faint metallic glint. She heard a soft, sad voice. "If you see more than yourself, don't look back." Sleep came in fits, tormented by dreams of running through endless fog, searching for answers in reflections, never reaching a true surface or solid ground. Linda's world felt less real with each passing day. The family's routines became ritualistic. Meals at the same time, cleansing ceremonies before bed, constant reminders to avoid mirrors and heed all warnings. Danik clung to her more than usual, nervous whenever he was left alone even for a moment. That morning, after the restless night, Linda wandered through the half-lit house aimlessly. She traced her fingers over the colored cloths covering every mirror, wondering what glimpse she'd see if she dared to look beneath. In the kitchen, Grandma prepared a strong-smelling soup. Mother was nowhere to be seen, away on errands again, leaving Linda to her thoughts. Linda settled by the porch, legs dangling over the edge, mist swirling around her ankles. She listened to the nearly inaudible sounds, the wind's strange hum, the faraway chanting, an occasional patter of something quick moving through the garden. It was here, surrounded by fog, that the red-dressed girl reappeared. She stood just beyond the safety of the porch's lantern light, her dress glowing against the gray mist, white flower pinned above her heart. Linda braced herself. "Why do you keep coming here?" she asked softly. The girl's eyes, impossibly sorrowful, met hers. "I am looking for my soul. Something took it. Something hungry." Linda didn't know what to say, her own fears pressing down in her chest like heavy river stones. "I keep seeing you in mirrors," Linda admitted, voice shaking. "Sometimes I hear you calling. Sometimes I think you're trying to tell me something." The girl stepped closer, lanterns flickered. "There are rules to surviving this month," she whispered. "Some rules you already understand, but others you must learn faster." Linda's heartbeat thundered in her ears. "Like what?" The girl held up her hand, palm outward. "Never pick up a gift or token you didn't own before this month began. Never answer voices that whisper from behind glass. Never look into a mirror after sunset, unless you are ready to see what truly waits there." Linda nodded. She remembered the flower, the patch, the brooch, each a violation, each a lure. "Why me?" she whispered. The girl's lips curled in the smallest of smiles. "You listen. Most ignore us. Most forget." As quickly as she came, the girl faded into the swirling mist, leaving Linda alone and shivering. Inside, Linda found Danik curled under a blanket in the armchair, eyes wide. "I saw someone at the window," he whimpered. "She asked me to come play. She sounded just like you, Linda, but she looked sad. Different." Linda comforted him, whispering reassurances, wishing she believed them herself. Grandma, worried by everyone's anxiety, began reinforcing the house's protections. More red ribbons, sprigs of mint and salt placed above every doorway. At sunset, she filled bowls with burning incense, chanting rhythmic spells to banish ill fortune. Linda watched, feeling the reality of her world slip further, as though thin threads of fog tied her to something far older, far hungrier than herself. That night, as everyone prepared for bed, Linda lingered in the hallway, a cold draft raising goose bumps on her skin. She heard the distant sound, the wind bells, yes, but tucked beneath them, the unmistakable whispering giggle of a child. She had to know. She peeled back the cloth on the small hand mirror outside her bedroom. Her own face stared back, eyes rimmed with exhaustion. But then the image changed. Behind her, deep in the distorted glass, the red-dressed girl appeared, hand pressed to the inside as if pleading, lips moving wordlessly. And then, as Linda watched, something else moved. The outline of a mouth, wide, empty, echoing the shape of hunger itself, opened behind the girl. It reached for her, and the girl struggled, her hand clawing at the invisible barrier. Linda gasped, covered the mirror, backing away fast. As she curled up in bed, Linda heard the voice again, softer than breath, more urgent. "Help me, don't forget me." Sleep was slow, haunted by phantom hands that brushed her face, dreams of mirrors dissolving into fog. When morning came, Linda found salt scattered on her rug, Grandma's magic. She clung to the protection, feeling as if she balanced on the blade of night and day, hope and haunting. The mist did not lift. The rules would not bend. Shadows behind glass waited for a mistake. The next day, neither the fog nor fear lifted. Linda and Danik spent the morning inside, forbidden from venturing even to the porch. Grandma brewed strong tea and muttered incantations under her breath, red ribbons stitched now to every curtain and door handle. Despite the protections, Linda felt the heaviness grow. The house seemed to shrink, walls pressing in. With nothing left to distract them, Danik resorted to pacing the hallway, dragging his battered toy car along. The jeweled laughter of the day before had been replaced by brittle silence. In the late afternoon, the sun a pale disk behind the clouds, Linda finally gathered the courage to speak. I want to walk in the yard once more. I'll stay in sight. I'll be careful. Grandma hesitated, then gave her a sprig of mint to carry for luck. Linda stepped outside. The cool air nipped at her skin, and the garden was strangely silent, only the rustle of leaves breaking the hush. She moved slowly, tracing the familiar path to the plum tree. Just as she passed the tree, a shadow detached itself from the trunk and fell in step beside her. Not a ghost, but neither fully human. Linda didn't run. She walked steadily, every sense alert. A whisper followed her. Remember, tread lightly here. Some shadows, once invited, never leave. She nodded. The shadow faded as she re-entered the porch's safety, the mint sprig unexpectedly warm in her hand. That evening, Grandma prepared extra incense, burning it by every threshold. The adults were tense. Linda's mother kept glancing at the mirrors, even though they were all still covered. Just before dinner, there was a knock at the door. A neighbor, face half hidden by a scarf, offered a basket of bread and a pouch of coins for luck. Grandma's eyes darkened, and she forced a polite smile. "Thank you, but gifts left at the threshold are not always safe," she murmured, closing the door with a wary hand. Linda, from behind her, noticed the basket, beautifully woven, the handle shining. But Grandma refused to let anyone touch it. Instead, she set it outside with salt scattered over and around it, a silent barrier against whatever intention had accompanied it. That night, Linda thought about gifts, how they could carry longing, sorrow, or an invitation to cross boundaries best left intact. As she drifted to sleep, the whisper of the red-dressed girl echoed once more. Never accept what you didn't have before the fog came. That night, rain finally pelted the old house, drumming against the windows and driving the fog away for a few fleeting hours. Linda, alone in her room, heard voices again, this time, her own name whispered from the wardrobe's direction, the sound so like her aunt's it made her chest ache. She grabbed her blanket and pressed herself into the corner, refusing the urge to answer, just as the red-dressed girl had warned. But the temptation was immense. The voice was loving, beckoning, promising safety if only she replied. Outside, the wind picked up, making the house creak. The covered mirror rattled faintly, as if something inside wanted out. Suddenly, the voice turned desperate. "Linda, please, just once, say my name." Linda pulled the covers over her head, silent and unmoving. Eventually, the voice faded, exhaustion overtook her. By dawn, she had triumphed. But a cold spot lingered by the mirror, a last echo of what might have entered, had she only spoken. The next morning, Linda felt weary but lighter. Grandma, sensing her granddaughter's ordeal, brewed a special tea and bade everyone sit together. She explained, "In this month, silence is shield, words are doors. The more you speak to those beyond, the easier it is for them to step inside." As dusk fell, Grandma led the family in a simple ritual, burning mint and tying red threads while each person remembered a secret they'd never reveal to spirits. No voices answered. The air was still. Linda, that night, looked at her shrouded mirror once more and smiled faintly. She whispered nothing, not even in her mind. Some boundaries, she finally understood, must never be crossed. The days grew shorter, the air shifted as Hungry Ghost Month neared its end. In those last hours, tension wound through the house, old fears fighting with weary hope. Grandma quietly prepared an offering at dawn, burning the final scraps of red cloth, scattering the last of the salt. Linda stood by the covered mirror, holding her breath. This time, instead of dread, she felt only calm resolve. Just before sunrise, a fleeting image shimmered in the glass. A pale girl in red, watching from beyond, her eyes less hollow, almost grateful. Linda felt the weight that clung to her for days finally lift. No voice called. The silence was gentle, not empty, and for once Linda sensed she was not alone, but protected. With the passing of the festival, mist left the fields, and sunlight slipped warm through the windows for the first time in weeks. Linda uncovered her mirror, not to tempt fate, but to see her own reflection true and unchanged. Her face, though tired, was her own. She remembered the lessons the month had given, that some boundaries must be held, that silence can be a shield, and that not every longing can or should be answered. That dusk, as laughter cautiously returned to the house, Linda knew she'd be ready when next the shadows came. Because on the other side of reflection, courage and caution were all she'd ever need. Thank you for watching this story until the end. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe to the channel, and be sure to leave a comment about which moments you found the scariest or the most memorable. Your feedback is very important to me and helps make new stories even more interesting.